In this lecture, we will review the diversity of seedless plants. If you remember, plants evolved from green algae, which originated as photosynthetic protists and are considered to be very closely related to charophytes. There are currently over 325,000 species of plants. Most are considered to be terrestrial, however, a few plants have returned to an aquatic environment. The mere presence of plants on Earth allowed for other life forms to survive on land. This is because they are major oxygen suppliers for other organisms to use for aerobic respiration. Plants and algae share many traits. They're both considered to be multicellular and eukaryotic. They both are considered to be photosynthetic autotrophs with the ability to use sunlight energy to make their own organic compounds. Both plants and algae have cellulose-based cell walls, and they both contain chloroplasts that have chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B pigments. Zygnema, which is a filamentous pond algae, is considered to be the closest relative to plants. However, some of these traits are uniquely shared with charophytes, and this supports the close relationship between the two groups. These traits include rings of proteins that produce cellulose. Some plants are known to have flagellated sperm, which is considerably close to charophytes. And also, they both have nuclear, chloroplasts, as well as mitochondrial DNA that have many similarities. Many charophytes develop special traits that enable them to survive in the land environment. Some of these charophytes are known to inhabit shallow waters where they may experience periods of drying. Many of these can produce zygotes, which are encased in sporopollenin. This is a strong polymer that can prevent desiccation when the zygotes are not submerged. This is also a polymer that can be found in plant spore walls, also supporting the relationship between charophytes and modern plants. The land environment offered some unique challenges to charophytes and plants, such as the lack of structural support against the forces of gravity, increased radiation from the sun, and lack of water access, but it also provided some unique advantages, such as an abundance of carbon dioxide to carry out photosynthesis, an abundance of sunlight, as well as access to mineral nutrients. Remember that plants are considered to be closely related to charophytes. This means that they have a shared ancestor, not that they derive from them. When we refer to the plant kingdom, we refer to plants as embryophytes, as seen in the diagram to the right. This means that they are considered to be plants with true embryos. In the phylogenetic tree, we know that there is an ancestral algal species. This led to the lineages of red algae as well as green algae. The green algae have diverged into chlorophytes, other charophytes, and the sister taxa to embryophytes, as well as modern-day plants. There are 5 derived traits that are unique to plants. This means that these adaptations or traits are present in plants but not present in charophytes. These include alternation of generations between gametophytes and sporophytes, walled spores produced in a sporangia. This occurs during the sporophyte stage. Apical meristems that occur at root and shoot tips. These are localized sites responsible for cell division. An epidermis that has a waxy cuticle. This is to limit the loss of water in a terrestrial environment. And the presence of stomata that can open and close to control gas exchange as well as water loss. Note that 1, 2, and 3 are completely unique to plants, whereas 4 and 5 are also seen in other forms of terrestrial life. The first derived trait is alternation of generations. This occurs when 2 generations may be present in a life cycle of a plant. These 2 generations are referred to as gametophytes and sporophytes. Gametophytes are considered to be haploid. They produce haploid gametes through the process of mitosis. These gametes may fuse to form a diploid zygote. Sporophytes are considered to be the diploid state. Sporophytes can produce spores which are haploid through the process of meiosis. It is these spores that eventually can develop into gametophytes. Take a look at the diagram to the right to understand the difference between the gametophyte and the sporophyte stage. Diploid zygotes that are produced can be retained in the female parental gametophyte tissue. This means that parental tissue can serve to provide nutrients as well as protect the developing zygote. In the diagram below, we can see an embryo developing within the maternal tissue. Sporophytes are the parts of the plant that contain multicellular organs called sporangia. It is in the sporangia where the spores are produced. As stated previously, the spores can have layers of sporopellenin, which is a polymer that can withstand harsh environments. It also serves to increase the dispersal ability of the spores. Take a look at the diagram below to note the difference between sporophytes, which are the tall stalk-like structure with the sporangium, and the gametophytes, which are at the base of the plant. Another derived trait is the apical meristems. The apical meristems are localized regions where cell division occurs. These regions are present at the tips of the roots and the shoots. At these locations, cell divisions can be carried out throughout the plant's life. This allows for the plant to constantly grow as well as acquire new resources. Another derived trait involves the presence of a waxy cuticle. Layers of wax and other particles can create an outer layer on the plant. This can serve to protect the plant from harsh conditions and from desiccation. It can also help prevent microbial infections by serving as a layer of protection between the environment, bacteria, and the interior plant tissues. Another derived trait is the presence of stomata. Stomata are specialized pores that are present on the surface of a leaf. These pores can open and close to optimize gas exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the plant and the external environment, and they can also prevent water loss. Another derived trait is the presence of mycorrhizae. Early plants were rootless and leafless, which made it very difficult for them to extract nutrients from the terrestrial environment. Fossil record does provide some evidence of a symbiotic relationship with mycorrhizal fungi present in early plants. The fungi serve to form a network of filaments in the surrounding soil. This would have aided in nutrient uptake despite the lack of true roots being present in the plant. Once plants made their appearance on land about 470 million years ago, life on land diversified greatly. Spores from early plants share characteristics that are unique and that are present in modern-day plants. These include the presence of the spore walls as well as the characteristics of the sporophyte tissue. We're now going to take a look at some major evolutionary events that pertain to the evolution of plants. Remember that ancestral plant species can be found in the fossil record and made their way onto land approximately 470 million years ago. It is believed that these plants evolved from ancestral green algae. These original plants were non-vascular and are now represented by the modern-day plants called bryophytes. Vascular plants made their appearance in the fossil record about 425 million years ago. These plants have specialized cells that join together to form tubes. These tubes aid in the transport of water and nutrients throughout the plant. These are represented by lycophytes and manilophytes, which are both considered to be seedless vascular plants. And finally, the last major evolutionary event was the evolution of seeds, which occurred about 360 million years ago. Seeds provided a very distinct and advantageous mode for dispersal. These are now represented by gymnosperms and angiosperms, which are considered to be seeded vascular plants. This phylogenetic tree represents the three major evolutionary events. We start with the ancestral green algae and also the origin of plants, which occurred approximately 470 million years ago. This led to the bryophytes, which are considered to be liverworts, mosses, as well as hornworts. From there we have the origin of vascular plants, which have a tubular network to distribute nutrients. This led to the presence of modern-day lycophytes, which include club mosses, spike mosses, and quillworts, manilophytes, which include ferns, horsetails, and whisk ferns. And finally, the origin of seeds in plants as a mode of dispersal, which are now present in modern-day gymnosperms and angiosperms. Ancestral species have given rise to a very diverse group of living plant groups. These can be represented by the 10 phyla in the chart to the right. Note that they can be categorized as far as non-vascular plants or bryophytes, vascular plants that are seedless, as well as seeded.